Yep, I totally did that. One sec. Great start on the YouTube show, by the way.
Great start.
The usual start.
Welcome to Beerfield. I am your host at Beerfield Hopp with 2 P's, Chris Hopper, as always, joined by Ryan and Dan. Ryan Miner at Ryan Miner _FFP. Dan Thury at Beerfield Thury. Welcome to Beerfield. It's week. Go ahead.
Was there a drop?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the drop.
Samesies.
Cold.
I was like,
I was talking over it once again.
That's because I didn't share the desktop audio. Sorry.
no.
No,
I was just
it's all
making
good.
sure.
no, you're good. Well, the first time I had it going out the wrong speakers, so they didn't even hear it on YouTube. The second time, here you guys go. My bad.
Hey.
They got to get pumped up. They got to hear it. I can't let them not have the intro music happen. We just fell out of the top 25% for those shenanigans. I am your host at Beerfield Hopp. As always, joined by Ryan Miner, Dan Thury. Welcome to the show. It's week 14. Should be, for most of you, the last week of your fantasy regular season. So, make sure you know what you need. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But we've got all your game previews, except for Thursday night, which is going on right now. All the latest from around the NFL, which Ryan and Dan are going to educate me on because I've been completely unplugged for the last 4 days. Yeah. At Beerfield.
We're here. We're happy.
Yeah. At Beerfield on Twitter, Beerfield Podcast on YouTube, and Spotify. And speaking of Spotify, per Spotify metrics, some cool stuff. Top 25% of most followed podcast. That blew my mind. I figured we'd be like bottom 5%, so that's something. Top 25% in most followed podcast. I think that's in the sports category, not overall, but either way, that's kind of cool because we don't necessarily have a huge following, so I was not anticipating that. So thank you guys that tune in each and every week. We have created for you guys 4,391 minutes of new content this year. More than 96% of other creators in the sports category. So we're top 4% in the top 4% in the amount that we're talking. So
Cam Akers fumble.
They lose it?
Things that don't surprise anybody.
Dang.
Baker Mayfield, 3-4, 65 yards.
Things that do surprise people.
All completions over 20 yards.
Huh.
The 3 different receivers.
Who?
Name them. You think? Guess the Rams receivers, Hopper.
Ben Skoranek?
That's one of them. That was the latest one.
Tutu Atwell?
That was the second one.
Brandon Powell?
No.
I don't even know if he was on their team. I don't even know if he's...
I don't know. Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson. Sorry.
All 20 plus.
Forget about him.
I mean, I forget a lot of things with this Rams team. I forgot about what we just talked about because it's how much I care about them.
More than them in a moment. Let's go ahead and get into this portion of it.
What's fueling Beerfield?
Oh, I forgot to mention, just because I said I'd mention it on the show, I beat Dan at disc golf for the first time ever. So
he did.
Kind of a milestone accomplishment. I mean, Dan beat Dan more so than I beat Dan. Let's be very clear about that.
It was rough. It was that was probably the worst putting round I've had after having probably my best year of putting I've ever had. That last round was just like, remember the yips? Remember how people can get it? Yeah, it's your turn, Dan.
Zach Wilson.
Oh my God. That was like Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there.
It was. It really, really was. It was quite a sight to behold. Meanwhile, he had to have the yips, and I had to play pretty much mistake free for the first 14 holes for that to be a thing. So,
and I promise you guys, I'm not that good.
No one you benefit from the sport world for the last 4 days. You were gloating on your win.
That's right.
I wish.
I
wish it were that fun.
a 4-day bender of it.
Yeah, 4-day bender.
This
Because
is for Dan.
Ryan, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Secret Bear Hug by Goose Island. It's a hazy IPA.
I just had that.
Really?
And it's a secret beer hug, but people call it bear hug because there's a bear on the can.
I did say that, didn't I?
So did my coworker when he was ordering it on Monday. So
The beer hug.
yeah,
Number
beer hug.
1. Yeah, number 1. That's what they call it.
The big hazy series.
I went to the people and asked the people what I should drink tonight.
Nice.
Dan said IPA, so
Because they're all IPAs.
Yeah, because they were all IPAs.
Yeah.
All right. After my bender, I am not feeling beer, so we're going with the bourbon. From Bourbon Pursuit. This is the Pursuit United bourbon. So just been in Illinois, just landed in Missouri. Pursuit United, the blend of 3 different bourbons out of Kentucky, Tennessee, and New York. New York portion of this blend is from Finger Lakes Distilling. I believe it's a wheater. The Tennessee portion is from somewhere that isn't Dickel, but is undisclosed because of an NDA. Kentucky portion is from Bardstown Bourbon Company. So, the retail is, I think it's $60 a bottle. Might be less than that. Don't quote me on that. But this is their custom blend and brand that was born out of their podcast. They're really cool guys. Had the pleasure of hanging out with them, meeting them, and actually, helping to, in some small way, to bring them to Missouri. So,
nice.
Kind of a cool thing. They're already in Illinois, so I had to bring them to the next state over. But anyway, we'll review on that midway through the show. Daniel.
I'm doing a show first. I don't think we've ever done this yet. I'm actually doing an NA beer. So the brewery I work for, we do contract brewing for a UK craft brewery, NA craft brewery company called Big Drop. Those of you in Illinois will probably be able to find it, especially in Chicago. They were the first market that they picked to launch in when they decided to go overseas because they're originally from the UK. And then the still was the brewery that they picked to do all their contracting and all the sales in the States for. So we had an official meeting today with them this morning. And you'll start to see them in some of the markets in the Midwest. Missouri is about to be launched, which I'm very excited for. That's my market. Obviously, can't do much in Illinois because they're already here with somebody else. So I am drinking. Yep, I am drinking Big Drop. This is their Pine Trail Ale. This is very, very well done craft NA. It's for those of you that may not be aware, it's 0.5% alcohol. Obviously, you can't completely reduce the beer out of this just with how it's done. There's always re-fermentation possibilities within the can afterwards. So 0.5%, it's what these tend to sit at. And these are the craft inspired ones.
Sweet.
Yep.
It is a show first to my knowledge, but I'm excited for that. And it's a cool thing to bring through because there has been a blow up in the NA beer. It's not just Busch and O'Doul's anymore.
No, it's not. It's the craft NA section. It's growing very much so. I think last year they accounted for 20% of all beer sales. So it's not like it's a fad that's going to come and go. I mean, the rise of health and fitness, especially through the pandemic, was a very real thing for people. And that's where the rise of craft NA, and there's other bigger breweries in the United States, especially on both the coasts, where they're more ahead of their time when it comes to what they drink. The Midwest is always the last to catch up to them, but I'm excited because I've been pounding the table for craft NA to see their rise because of how well they're done.
Indeed. Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and get into some of the news, at least from what I know. So I'll start obviously with some of the bigger stuff, and then if there's anything you guys can think of, we'll fill in. I'm not going to read straight off of Roto World or anything like that. So, first off, biggest news obviously coming out of last Sunday. Jimmy Garoppolo, broken foot. Does not look like it's a Liz Frank fracture, but it is still a broken foot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, they're already down Trey Lance, obviously. That means Brock Purdy is next man up.
Motherfucking Brock Purdy.
Purdy, a bit of mobility, decent arm, not super high. Was at one point expected to be a very, very highly thought of prospect coming out of college until he wasn't. All sorts of talent, never really put together. Didn't look too bad in relief duty, but he's going to have the 49ers playmakers. And, we saw a big bump to Christian McCaffrey coming out of this, but, definitely something to be worried about for, Ayuk and Debo, who's been pretty mediocre, really, for most of the season.
Yeah, good old Brock Purdy. After his freshman year at Iowa State, he was considered a top 3 to 5 Devy quarterback. It's not hard to see why he had a very high college QBR. And there's a lot of excitement. His game, when you watch his film, before everything shit the fan for him. He's part of that Mayfield and Winston mold. A guy that's got all the tools, got enough athleticism. Just he's gonna make some bad decisions. He's a part of that
Blake
lesser
Bortles,
tier.
Drew Lock,
Yeah, he's
those
part
guys.
of that lesser tier of gunslinger.
Yeah,
where they can make a play, and in the right system, with the right coaches, the right playmakers in mind, there might be something to string along for a few games. And we've seen bad quarterbacks find some success in this Kyle Shanahan offense.
that's what I was just gonna say with Nick
So,
Mullins and
yeah,
let's see, where was Simeon in that offense at one point or no?
not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, no, it was Mullins.
CJ
and, it was
Beathard.
Mullins and Bethard is what it was.
The other
Being
Iowa
two of them.
quarterback,
So
fucking Bethard. But Brock Purdy, it was fun because I was a big fan of his freshman year film. I think I remember texting Hopper about him.
yeah,
I'm like, he reminds me of Winston. Just like it's got the talent, can make every throw, but is he gonna make some fucking dumb play? He's gonna, and that's exactly who he became. And
Yeah.
obviously he fell off the face of the earth, and it was a 7th round pick. So he's actually Mr. Irrelevant this year.
mm-hmm.
But going to San Francisco is a good landing spot for him with the way Kyle Shanahan can work with them, like you already said.
You can mask his flaws, and you have the best pass catching back in the league. Like, you don't have to do a whole lot.
Right, he's got good coaching, so he'll protect him. And yeah, McCaffrey's going to be huge. They can. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm hoping to get Debo involved in some more creative ways, and they'll find a way. They're going to go into the playoffs with this, and with it not, it's going to be interesting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of playoffs too, Jimmy Garoppolo can come back if they make the NFC Championship because he's only out 7 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, they got to get there
They gotta get
first.
there
Good
first.
Well,
luck
just
getting
kidding.
through.
That's as far as they have to go.
I mean,
for him to come
they
back.
got a good team and great defense, and probably the best of the playmakers in football. At least one of the best sets. But
Yeah.
good
Purdy
luck
didn't
getting
look-
through Dallas or Philly at that point.
Purdy didn't look too bad, so I mean, he's got plenty of weapons around him to make it work.
His first test is going to be a tough one against the Bucs.
Yeah, against the quarterback that he was. I think it's how it was. He was like 2 years old or whatever when Brady took. No, not 2.
Not
He was
even. So I looked this up when I saw the quote. Brock Purdy was born in 1999. Tom Brady was drafted in 2000. I think he was 3 months old when Tom Brady was drafted.
Oh yeah, it was like
he was a
the
junior. He
bowl
was a
game.
junior. Yeah, he was a junior at Michigan. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yep. Other big one is obviously Baker Mayfield, who is playing right now. Baker Mayfield was released earlier this week by the Panthers. He was picked up by the Rams. We were talking before we came on air. We'll get to what the early results are here in a minute, but why not if you're the Rams? You've got Stafford, who was never, in my opinion, healthy this season, who's out with now a spinal cord injury. Very well could be the end of the road. and you have no quarterback depth behind him, and you have no draft capital. Wolford, they obviously don't trust, and Perkins isn't what you would see as a top tier backup. So why not put the claim out on Baker, bring him in for $1 million for the rest of the season, and see what you get. And look, the Rams don't have any draft capital, so if they do have to replace Stafford, doesn't hurt to bring him in, build the relationship, see if he'll work out, and see what McVay can do. Like we just talked about, Shanahan putting quarterbacks in a position to succeed. McVay is also kind of from that same mold, where he is smart enough and understands how to put players in a position to be successful. No offensive line this year, obviously, so the results haven't been there, but it's a dude that went to a Super Bowl, Jared Goff.
And it's easy to pick up a former number 1 overall pick than it is to try to go out there and draft it in the 5th round, 4th or 5th round is what they'd have.
Yeah.
Based on like draft capital right now. So it's like they have nothing that's worth anything. So you might as well just bring in and take the freebie shot at it and see what happens.
Indeed.
Derek Carr interception in the end zone.
Yeah, that's not surprising either.
This game going about as expected as much as I expected. And one more note, the Rams are the only team that put a claim in. I know there's a lot of buzz about San Francisco putting one in, maybe Houston. Rams are talked about as a potential block for the Niners, but as Hopper mentioned and Ryan, it's a good move just to see what you have if Stafford's not the future. And it's a good way to get a compensatory pick if they let him walk in free agency. A team that loves to move away from picks, could get a potential day 3. I doubt they'll get a 3rd round pick for him, but if they can get an early day 3 pick for him, it's still a very big thing for a team that is desperate for cheap depth.
Something's better than nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get some. He'll be, it's based on obviously on what they do will depend on whether they get one themselves, but Baker will likely at least yield them one to start with.
And also depends too if Matt Stafford plans to come back next year or not.
Yeah, they may just re-sign him himself. Yeah. You treat Bridge deal. Unfortunately, you don't have a 1st round pick, but I believe all the 1st rounders they gave to Detroit is gone after this, or is done after this year. So they don't have a first. I think they'll finally have a 1st. Yeah, I think they'll finally have a 1st in 24.
Yeah, right in time
until they fucking trade it away.
Let's see.
For I don't know. Maybe McVay sees something
No, because I think the Jared Goff trade was the last trade they did with 1st round picks, which was this year and last year's 1st rounder.
I gotta
right. Yeah. So they don't, which was the Stafford trade.
Yep.
So the Lions have their 1st rounder this year. The Rams have their own 2nd, which honestly, you're not going to get top flight quarterback there, but you do something. You probably need a bridge still. They have their own 3rd. The Patriots have their 4th. The Browns have their 5th. The Titans have their then they have 4 6th round picks. The Rams do.
Ooh, 4 6th round picks.
Trying to
special
read
teams.
Yeah, they have the Falcons, the Packers, their own, and the Titans 6th rounders, and the Lions 7th.
Yikes.
No, never mind. That went to the Packers. In 2024, they do have their own 1st round, and they still have their full complement of picks in 2025. 2024, they have all of their day 1 and day 2 picks. So they just might suck next year, honestly.
They might tear down and rebuild.
That's probably the right move. And you let McVay. Did McVay handpick Goff, or is that?
Oh, he inherited him.
So that was the year after, right? Because McVay came in 17.
Yes.
Okay, so Goff hasn't even picked his own quarterback in a draft yet.
No,
effectively
traded.
Not Goff, but McVay. Yes.
Yeah, Goff hasn't either, though. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Goff hasn't either. Yeah.
No, McVay got to pick Stafford when he was available, but he hasn't drafted his own quarterback. And they could opt to look. They need offensive line. The defense is old. You could pull some draft capital out of Cooper Kupp as a deadline deal next year if he comes back healthy. 30-year-old receiver, still tearing it up, but if you don't see
I
him,
guess who Allen Robinson is too.
Allen Robinson was a 1-year.
Was he a 1 year?
He was a 3-year deal.
So
I don't
it's
know
like
what
high
the
dollar.
Like,
I don't know what the deal breakdown is, but it was a 3-year deal.
I'm looking at it because Cup just.
Oh yeah, 3-year, 46.5 million with 30.7 million guaranteed.
The out on Robinson is after next year.
I was going to say it's probably very
8
front loaded the first 2 years.
Yeah, 8.4 in dead cap. It's very
Yeah.
front loaded.
That makes sense.
So he could be a trade deadline next year, really.
If he has any value, yeah.
It's a maybe the Rams. He's going to have to look good when the Rams are bad. So
at his age 30 season, it's oh my god, it's gross.
So the other, I guess, I don't know how this works in the NFL, but with Cooper Kupp, his out isn't until after 2024. So,
yeah,
he'd have another year of team control, I guess.
We'll see.
Yeah, because even then, it's a lot of dead cap to cut him.
I don't think they'd but not looking at cutting him. I think it'd just be trying to do like a trade him somewhere to a contender.
That's what they would do.
Try to get something.
They'd have to absorb the salary too. Anyway, just a rabbit hole. Got a little bit of a rabbit hole there. Cortland Sutton sidelined. He hurt his hamstring last week and has not practiced since. So it's with Jerry Jeudy back though, so they can't get healthy. Rondale Moore sidelined still. I think Joe Mixon's trending towards playing. And I don't know. Traylon Burks was concussed last Sunday. He is not practicing currently. So
it seems like when these guys go down with concussion, they're down for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
It's like the new protocol. It's not like you're down Sunday and you're back in the following week. It's like you're down Sunday and then you're already out the next Sunday. So it's like 2 weeks out now.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty obvious it's got to be pretty light of a concussion for them to come back after the game in which they, did occurred in.
See,
Mixon, as you said, Mixon. There isn't a lot of big news. Mark Ingram's out 3 to 5 weeks.
Plays out for the rest of the season.
Saints are on a bye. It doesn't mean much this week, but
Desmond Ritter's taking over.
Again, doesn't really mean much at all.
It does to me.
It's worth
watching.
It's worth watching.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't really care, but it can't be much worse than Mariota. I guess that's a good thing.
I don't know that there's a ton of upside. I think that Ritter's fine, but he didn't. I don't know. He's a smart player. He doesn't have some of the raw tools that other people have, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, on a team devoid of fucking talent.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah, it's going to be
it's going to be
London.
Probably going to be game managery with some rushing upside.
Yeah. It's going to be Alex Smith.
But
it's going to be Alex Smith.
But they need to see what they have in him and how he looks after a little bit. It's the right move.
Yeah. Yeah. It took too long. I understood why it took him this long, but
not going to be a world changer.
No.
I still have hope.
I know you do. I'll be thinking of you when he goes, 27 for 175 and a touchdown.
I was going to give him two,
but no picks.
But no picks.
I don't think I don't know if they'll let him throw that much to get to 200. Maybe Drake.
He's maybe a cannon though.
Maybe he'll unlock Drake. It's not. Does he really have it? I don't think he has a cannon. He's got an adequate arm. I think fine. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a cannon though. A cannon's Malik Willis. That motherfucker's got a cannon.
Yeah, his arm.
Desmond Ritter's got like a super soaker with 3 hydro shit attached to it. It's not going far, but
I won't knock
it. Get there.
Hey, you know what's funny, Dan? His best player comparable on Player Profiler
is Alex Smith.
Alex Smith,
yeah.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. So, yeah, not a cannon for an arm, but smart player.
And that'll work. That could work.
What I could tell. And that can absolutely work in the right system.
Yep.
So
I don't think
know.
Atlanta has that, but we'll see what
I
happens.
don't either, but we'll see.
We'll see.
All right, that's all I want to go into on the news. I don't think there's anything else that was severely missed, and if there is, it's injury related, and we'll find it.
We're good.
All right. One other thing before we get into game previews. So last week of the regular season, I would encourage you, as you look at start sits and ask these questions, to know what you need. And what I mean by that is this: know where you're at in the standings. Know, for my playoff odds, do I need to win? What are my tiebreakers? Do I need to score points? It's more important that I play against my opponent, or I just put up as many points as possible in case of a tiebreaker scenario. That's all going to come into how you set your lineups. We talk about floor some weeks and projections and things like that. This week, more so than anything else, got to look at how the tiebreakers are going to fall, how points 4 is going to land, and what actually you need to do and you need to happen to get into the playoffs. Especially, very few teams are going to be sitting clear into the first or second spot. There's going to be a lot more teams that are fighting it out for, 4, 5, 6 seeds separated by the way the season's gone. I think every league is like this that I'm in, separated by maybe one win and 20 to 30 points in the standings.
It's great advice, and start looking. If you're a team that, or if you're in a league that use defense, to start continuing to look at what your playoffs look like. Depth. It's not so. I mean, depth is still important, but getting your roster set up for success. Picking up backups, handcuffs, not to your
handcuffs.
Not even just to your own team, but start looking at your other opponents. Start looking at your other teams. And
one injury away.
Yeah.
Always one injury
away. It's a perfect cock block. And maybe look at a guy that you've been holding on to for maybe too long. And maybe you can drop him, get some name cachet to him that someone else can pick up and fucking deal with.
Especially in redrafts, right? It's gamesmanship. If, as long as you're playing by the rules, if your league does not have a rule of if you pick somebody up, you have to start them or something like that, pay attention to defensive matchups. Go pick up teams that have good defenses that have defensive matchups and just stash them. You can't take those bench players into with the next year. So, if you've got 2 or 3 spots and there's, good defensive matchups out there, stash the defenses on your roster.
And don't be afraid to cock block either when it comes to waivers.
Yeah.
If there's a good player out there and you don't need it, take it anyways, just because that takes that one more player off that opponent's opportunity to beat you with.
And out of the playoffs. If you're not in the playoffs, also know, is there a consolation bracket, a toilet bowl, whatever? Keep setting your lineups. I will tend to, there's no reason that you have to do this, but I will tend to, if I'm not playing for anything, back off the waiver wire and the waiver claims and stuff like that as a non-competing team. But that's only if literally the consolation brackets and everything mean nothing, but do set your lineups throughout the end of the year. You committed for a full season, play a full season.
Yep.
That's like what I did in the Scott Fish Bowl that's going into round 3. I didn't need anyone, but I went and tried to pick up every claim I could of every player that was available. I only got one.
Are you still in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Nice.
I am.
I got in. I got in with that Rashad White touchdown.
Really?
Yeah. Literally the last play of the game got me in.
Nice.
Because my dumbass thought that the bye week players had their averages added to it. I was wrong. And I almost lost because of it. I'm like messaging Scott, like personally, it was like, I thought that was a rule. Like, legitimately thought that was supposed to be the case just for Scott Fish. And it wasn't. And we talked about it for a little bit. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask him to ever do anything. Like, this is my own problem, my own mistake. I thought I was going to be done for sure. And then Rashad White to the rescue.
Rashad White to the rescue.
What are you ranked right now?
I am like,
oh, I can actually look you
I'm
up.
like the 10. I'm like 1190. I was like one of the last teams after the fact. Daniel Carlson's doing me some nice work. Hopefully, I was hoping the Raiders didn't get that fucking interception. Got some more points, but
you're at 909 now.
Oh yeah, I'm moving up because of Carlson.
I'm at 213. I don't have any kickers.
Did you say that Well, Ritter's
I have to
taking-
play him because of the Scott Fish. I have to play because I'm on sleeper. I have to play kicker.
Oh, that's right. Because you did the live draft, right?
Yep.
Yep. I have to play, and you can't flex a kicker and yet on sleeper. That's why you have to play one.
All right. Before we get into previews, we're gonna save the since we did a really short intro segment, we'll save the reviews until between the noon and 3 o'clock games.
Yeah.
But before we get into this, bye weeks this week. Again, I have one league that's starting playoffs in week 14. Bad idea because of this. We all knew it going in. It's fine. But bad idea because of this right here. Your bye weeks right now are voluminous, but not really super impactful, thankfully. It's the Falcons, so don't really lose anything there. The Bears, so you lose Justin Fields and David Montgomery. The Packers, so you lose Aaron Jones. The Colts, the Saints, and the Commanders. All on bye this week. So
it's just a lot of running. That's a lot of running backs loss. Kamara, JT, Jones.
Kamara, JT, Jones,
Gibson,
Robinson. And not a lot of quarterbacks, though, not a lot of receivers lost in this one either. So McLaurin really being the highlight of wide receivers that don't. I guess McLaurin and Olave.
I mean, Watson in his 8 fucking touchdowns in 4 weeks, but
yeah, that too. So anyway, it is the last run of bye weeks for the season, and there are 6 teams on bye. So something to be aware of. You're going to be 3 games short this week. Dan,
ready? Ready?
Over to you.
All right. First game's the one that this show will call it the game of the week. Vikings at the Lions. The most controversial, I guess, line or spread, the most talked about spread this week. Lions 1.5 point favorites at home. 51.5 is the game total. And that to me is tied for the highest. Only 2 games on this slate that have 50 plus. This game is one of them. Look, if you think you're basically betting on who wins this game. If you think the Vikings will win, take the money line. If you think Detroit will win, take the spread. This game is not going to be 1 point. It's going to be probably more than that. Down to the last minute field goal touchdown. I don't see this ending in a 1 point game. My best advice: take the over. You have 2 of the worst defenses, 2 of the most funneled defenses in terms of yards. So a lot of production to be had in this game, and a lot of scoring potential. So take the over, have fun. Otherwise, just take who you think will win. Just take the best odds of whichever one you get between money line and spread.
Yep, I mean you're gonna go full chalk with this one. Kirk Cousins is a streaming option if you need to replace Justin Fields, as is Jared Goff this week. Stay away from both defenses. Other than that, Swift put himself back into comfortable territory with more of a normal workload last week. Jamal Williams is leading the league in touchdowns. Both Detroit backs are completely viable this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, more than viable. Jameson Williams, he didn't do anything last week, so he's still working his way back. Don't put your playoff hopes on that. For the Vikings, if you need to stream a wide receiver, Adam Thielen's not a bad go grab. TJ Hawkinson revenge game.
Ooh, TJ Hawkinson revenge game. Dude, you nailed this game, right? This game is the highest over-under. This game's going to be back and forth. The values of all the Lions are freaking awesome. Jared Goff, 5,600. Jamal Williams, 5,900. DeAndre Swift, 5,800. You can't go wrong with either back on that one. But I feel like the shift is going more DeAndre Swift this week just based on what they did last week, where basically you're waiting for Jamal Williams is basically so touchdown dependent, where Swift is actually part of the passing game. So that PPR boost is what actually helps him. So for $100 cheaper, I'm actually willing to go with DeAndre Swift. And keep an eye on Jameson Williams, because when I was there Sunday for the game, the whole entire stadium was kept screaming, "We want JMO." So this could be a game where he comes out and we actually see something. But with the way they're playing right now, it's borderline iffy because we don't know for sure if they're going to be playoff bound or not, because of the 5-2 record.
There's not a better defensive secondary matchup to get him involved in. One of the first plays the Packers ran with Watson in week 1 was a deep shot that was flat out dropped. There's a a mold of receiver that can destroy the secondary of Minnesota is going to be speed, and
That's Jameson Williams.
and that's Jameson's Williams. That's his calling card. So, the offensive line, I believe in Detroit is the healthiest it's been. This is I don't see a lot of pressure getting onto Goff, and the man may not be that great at football, but one thing we know he's good at is you give him a clean pocket and time, he can dissect your secondary, and
I think
we don't got a good one.
I think my only problem with Jameson Williams is that 8 offensive snaps and 11% snap share last week. They're definitely.
Oh, and I'm not saying
into
to play him.
this, so.
I'm not
They're
saying
easing
to
him
play
in.
him.
No,
They're also not out of the playoff hunt, and there's going to be getting them ramped up is probably the best move until you're mathematically out. Until you feel confidently that you're out.
You want him to dip his feet in, sure, but I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to go too fast or hard with that. You want him to dip his feet in, ramp him up as the season goes along. I look at Jameson Williams and the way I think they're going to use him, and I really think he's a guy that if he does ramp up over the next 2 to 3 weeks, that could be a league winner throughout, depending on what their matchups are, throughout your championship week and maybe even your semifinal week. But it might take that long to get there.
They're breaking the rust off him right now.
We'll see. It'll be a fun one to watch.
Oh yeah.
Right. Jets at the Bills. Bills 10-point favorites at home. 43.5 is the game total. The Jets look like an entirely different team with the addition of Mike White. I don't know if that's going to amount to much long term,
57 fucking times.
Yeah. That can work against Minnesota. I don't think that's not gonna be as much success against a team like Buffalo, even without Von Miller.
They still without most of their secondary too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still very much hurt. And to that, I would almost lean the under. I can see this going easily of the way of the New England Jets games this year. And just a dogfight. We know what Buffalo can do as an offense at any given moment, but even their own team hasn't been playing up to what I think a lot of people thought they'd be. So I lean the under, but probably pass in this game.
It looks like Milano not practicing, Jordan Poyer or vet rest, so he should at least be healthy. But
yeah.
All right, my turn.
Yes.
So for the Jets, we'll start there. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's been fantastic. Beyond that, Elijah Moore. I think people had a lot of hope with Mike White, and it's been better. He had 6 targets last week. Productivity hasn't necessarily followed. You're looking for, again, a streaming option that has upside. If you're somehow in a pickle, Elijah Moore's not a bad route to go. However, there's no floor to this at all. None. So, it's a Hail Mary. Running back side for the Jets, Michael Carter is going to be back. He is practicing. That's going to throw a little bit of water on Zonovan Knight, but I expect him to fully be involved still. So take that for what you will. You're going to end up in a split backfield type of scenario that makes both guys flex options, though, in my opinion. I think Knight does get most of the kind of early down work. He's not going to be phased out, but Michael Carter, I think, is still going to have a role, particularly if the Jets get behind is MI and he ends up in the receiving game a bit. Now, not going to completely take Zonovan Knight out of the fold. It's not what I'm saying, but that's his calling card. If he's healthy, they're going to use him. Flip side of this for the Bills, that one's going to be pretty well chalk. I am not leaning on Gabe Davis this week if I can help it. Good secondary for the Jets. Good scheme. I don't expect this to be necessarily a shootout per se. So, this is not something that builds up like this is going to be a Gabe Davis day to me. Just, it's not how I see it. So your Diggs, your Allen, your Singletary for Buffalo.
You still feel Singletary, even though with James Cook kind of pushing more into it?
13 carries, 51 yards, and a tutty last week. He's still fine as an RB2.
But it was like the overall target share. Like if you include carries and targets, it was like 20 to 15.
That's because
leaning towards James Cook.
James Cook ended up with 6 targets in that one, sure. And also 14 carries, but yeah, that just means you got another starter in James Cook, not that you're sitting Devin Singletary.
You still see a 50-50 split going on with it.
That's the last thing you want in an offense that doesn't even like
it is
50-50 is not great either.
No, it's not, but outside of looking up and down this, right? There's not you talked about the number of running backs you lost this week, right? You don't have a lot of things that aren't going to be 50-50 splits or split in some way. The Lions are a 50-50
totally
split. Mixon should get full work. Chubb should get full work. Bills are going to be close to a 50-50 split. Jets are going to be split. Cowboys will be split. Jaguars potentially. Broncos are a clusterfuck. The Chiefs are a clusterfuck. Seahawks are I think without Kenneth Walker, right?
Walker and DJ Dallas still aren't practicing, so
right.
Travis Homer.
Looking at Travis Homer. Dolphins are split. Bucks are split.
It's gonna be a rough. It's been a rough season for running backs.
So you got to start somebody in a 50-50 split. Basically, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
No,
I totally understand where you're coming from. It's just like you look at your RB1s and you think like, oh yeah, I can do that, and then your RB2s, you're like, oh my gosh, like that's the hardest position to fill right now is RB2
and the flex spot.
Yeah.
So who would you rather play than Singletary or Cook? If you had both, if you had a roster with both, or if they're both in waivers, and you need to pick up one. Those smaller leagues, I'm
PPR,
sure.
which is going to be most leagues. I think I'd rather go Cook. He's getting all the receiving work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They both ran they both had similar snap shares. Both below 50, above 45%. Both ran 10+ routes.
Singletary's got 4 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks. So it just I'd prefer Cook and PPR, but both have value.
Yeah, they could be a wash at the end and have the same amount of points at the end of this week.
It could be the conversation. It could be the arguments of Zach Moss and Devin Singletary from last year and 2 years ago. So
yeah, except I think Singletary's like overall better this year, and James Cook I think is better than Zach Moss. It's a better version of that.
I know. But do keep an eye on Cook. If the snaps continue to increase and his touches too, that's something to keep an eye on, regardless if you pick him up or not, or have him stashed or not. That's something to keep an eye on. It's still an offense you want to have parts tethered to.
Yeah.
And
well, I was just gonna say too, right? You get 1 week of that, but then you had 3 weeks ago, or it looked like all right. He had 11 carries, went for 86 yards. He might be breaking out, and then you go to the next week and you got 28 total yards. You had 5 targets, but you ended up with 28 total yards. So the consistency isn't quite there with Cook yet either for me to say, all right, yeah, this is going to happen. He had a game all the way back in week 2 where he looked like, all right, this is going to be decent, and then went on hiatus for like the entire middle part of the season.
To be honest, so there's only one reliable piece or one reliable playmaker in Buffalo too.
Yeah, it's Diggs.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of been that offense is extremely successful, obviously, with it, but that's obviously something that they've been missing is a second playmaker. So it's like a rotation of receivers underneath receivers, and then these type of running backs too. All right, Ravens at Steelers.
No DFS talk.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we went on a tangent. It's okay. I still like James Cook in DFS of $4,600 compared to Devin Singletary at $5,700
Yeah,
just for cost. Like
just to save
I,
that
I, I,
$1,000, 100%.
exactly, I'm chasing the cost, and same with Zonovan Knight. He's at 5,100. It's like I'm not really too worried about Michael Carter coming back because still see him as being 60-40 with Carter. Like
what's the cost on Carter?
Carter's 5,300, so he's only $200 more. And then my favorite play of this week is actually Gabe Davis because he's down to 5,300. And like you always say, Dan, and I actually wrote it in my article, either he finishes, he's the wide receiver 1. And then I even wrote he's either, wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 69. Because it's true, because he's so boomer bust, but it's like when that cost comes in at that value, it's just like you just take it. And
well,
hope
the
for
problem with and that is that he doesn't really. There isn't a game like I know Hopper may disagree, but I don't like he doesn't have a tell when you should play him because it could look like a great matchup, but then he has 5 targets, 1 catch for 10 yards. It can be a decent, it can be a bad matchup or matchup you didn't think game script would matter, or they're going to be more run heavy, or they're not going to have to score enough, a lot of points to win. And then he goes, 3 catches in the first half, 2 go for touchdowns.
right.
Like it's like if that is Gabe Davis, that is literally him, and you play him, you have 1 or 2, like that's what you have to accept. And he should be in your DFS matchups. I would never play him in cash, but if you would, he should definitely be a part of your GPP pools when you're building lineups around the Buffalo offense.
Yeah, and I do disagree to a degree. The last matchup against the Jets, he was bad, by the way. So you got some historical there. It was 2 for 33 on 5 targets in the last matchup against the Jets. But as I look back at the season, there's been a couple times where you thought he was going to go off and he dudded you, 2 that I'm counting. Otherwise, there's been 0 times where he's gone off and you didn't look at it and think that he could, I think is what it is. So trying to predict when it's going to happen, hindsight's 2020, right? Go back to week 1. We expected the Rams to have a good defense. With what we know about the Rams now, it would have made sense that he went off in that game. And he did. And then you got the dud against Miami. Okay. If I remember that game right, there were like 2 balls that missed him by like that much. You got, a dud against Baltimore, but that would qualify for, okay, yeah, he dudded you when he thought he was going to go off. I guess my argument is he hasn't gone off in a game where I would look at it and say, I absolutely don't expect him to go off in this game. That has not happened yet. Therefore, it'll probably happen this week. But Pittsburgh without TJ Watt, yeah, I looked at that one and said, okay, yeah, probably a game he can go off. Minnesota, looked at that one and said, okay, yeah, probably a game he can do decent. And he did. 10 targets, 6 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown. New England looked at that one, said bad. 2 receptions, 15 yards. So Detroit, that's another one of those anomalies where it's like, okay, yeah, I expected him to go off in that game. He didn't. So, you're trying to pick the spots of when he's going to go off, and you might get burned doing that like you would if any boom bust player. But if I look at a matchup and say, this ain't good for him, that has been mostly true.
Right. And then I follow that up. I like the New York Jets DST, $2,500. Because last time these two met, Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions and took 5 sacks along with that. But that was also at MetLife Stadium. So maybe being in Buffalo could be a whole different thing.
Josh also hasn't been playing great. He just beats Josh Allen because he's Josh Allen, but he's also
Buffalo's
he's showing things I think people forgot about him for what he was his first couple of years. He's so prone to mistakes. Like that's the type of quarterback he is, and it's all love because it's of how good he's become. But he's so prone to him. Like the same way with Mahomes will fall into that trap. Like it's me digging on Allen. It's a lot of that's a common trait amongst these younger elite QBs is that they can do too much because they believe themselves as being the best person on the field. And Allen will fall into that trap constantly. Like it's not an uncommon thing to see from him anymore.
Yeah, he's basically exactly where he was at last year, honestly, from percentage standpoints and everything.
Yeah. All right. Ravens at the Steelers. Steelers 1.5 point favorites at home. 36 and a half is the game total. This is, I believe, the lowest on the slate. Yeah, the lowest. One of a couple of games that are in that 30
Jesus,
dud range.
there's something we missed in the news. Lamar Jackson's MCL sprain.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. 1 to 3 weeks.
Yep. So,
You're gonna get Tyler Huntley this week.
yep.
Just both teams can't put up a lot of points. Both defenses aren't very good, but you have slow pace offenses that will easily get into their own way. I'm sure Ryan will mention the defense in DFS. As for betting, though, just look a different direction. This is not a game you want to try to dip your hand into.
Yeah, Ravens are in a bad way here from a fantasy perspective too. You had Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake pretty much splitting last week. Andrews is how do you say, not looked fantastic throughout.
No, but thankfully
the
his
last
best
3 to 4 weeks, but
his best games from last year came with Huntley. So maybe there's hope. There's hope.
yeah, there is hope here. So you got to play him, right? Because even when I say he's not been good, he's still a middle of the road tight end 1. So
yeah,
you are playing him. You just aren't getting the upside out of him that you drafted him for. I don't know what else you can confidently play against the Ravens or for the Ravens necessarily. Bateman's still on IR. Receiver wise, there hasn't been a lot that stepped up with any form of consistency. You've gotten some flashes out of people, but you haven't gotten any consistency there at all. Pittsburgh, kind of just middle of the road on defense in most facets. So, yeah, okay. 4th most fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So you've got some options there. You just can't really trust anything on the Ravens, which makes that tough. Who led?
You just don't play any. You just play Mark Andrews, right? That's
yeah.
there's no need to try to dissect
not,
in a game that yields no points.
Should just be Mark Andrews. There's no points. There's no. You might have a receiver that goes off here, but
Deshaun Jackson.
yeah, Deshaun Jackson or DeMarcus Robinson or something you're not going to predict.
Yeah.
Drake and Edwards are in an ugly timeshare. Steelers side of this, no Deontay Johnson. That's good news for George Pickens. And,
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
And then Freiermuth and Harris. That's it.
I think it's great news for Freiermuth.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty much become baby Andrews. And tied in with that's getting the high end target share you want to see on a piss poor passing offense.
Yep.
Isn't it crazy to see Tyler Huntley starting week 14 once again after he did start week 14 last year for the Ravens?
Not really.
You don't think so?
No.
Because he started week 11 last year, and then he came back week 14 through 18 and had that tear like the first 2 games, and then
I think
he got hurt. That was when Jackson got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then they had Josh Johnson come in.
I think
got him back. Yeah.
I think that it just happens and coincidences are real.
Because I still like Huntley this week for $5,500. You can't go wrong with that as a bargain play type of quarterback if you want to go. Because you're kind of hoping for the rushing upside.
Yeah,
what he showed a lot last year.
And that's something I should have mentioned too, is that Huntley is, a streamer. If you're streaming quarterbacks, is not a bad option. You're probably too late on it, but not a bad right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but not a bad option.
And then also, like you said about Mark Andrews, like if you're gonna start anyone, you're gonna start Mark Andrews, because last year Mark Andrews showed like increasing. He was a lot better in fantasy even with Huntley than he was with Lamar Jackson, which is also shown again this year. But we haven't seen that side of Huntley yet with Andrews, so I'm hoping we see that. We see Andrews come back to one of the top tight ends, be up there with Kelsey at 6,500, and I think Kelsey's at 7,600. So $1,100 savings to try to get the tight end 1 this week is kind of worth it.
Yeah.
And like Dan said, he already knew what I was going to do. He knew I was going to go with the 2 defenses, because you can play them both against each other because they both take sacks, they both throw interceptions. And I like the Steelers a lot more because they're $500 cheaper at 2,800. but they also have TJ Watt back, and it's amazing how much better that defense looks just with TJ Watt back on the field.
It's what a difference an all-pro a pass rusher makes to a team
Right?
when they're
It's
finally healthy. Yeah.
one player. I'm like, this is freaking mind blowing.
All right, fuck that game. Eagles at the Giants. The Eagles 7-point favorites on the road. 44.5 is the game total. Giants just kind of look pedestrian for the majority of the season. The offense is starting to take a bit of a toll. Barkley showed up late on the injury report. Something to monitor as we go. And Philly just continues to be arguably the best team in the NFC. Right up there with Dallas. So I still don't trust this point spread. This is still two divisional matchups, massive matchups for not just the two teams, but for wild card implications, for number one seed implications. So Giants are trying to hold on to their to their playoff hopes here in a must-win home game. I would put a little money on New York to take this. I wouldn't bet the house or anything like that. Take a little bit of money on New York to win this game at home. Trying to take one away from Philly and keep those playoffs hopes. There's no real analytical dive to it. It's just a hopeful thing. That's just a little bit of a bias hope, but yes.
Is that because the Giants are at home? Kind
because
of home field advantage.
That's because I want the Eagles to lose so the Vikings still have a chance, the number one seed.
Also because the Giants.
There's the truth.
The Giants do play with some grit. That's how you win ugly, is you play with some grit, and their backs against the wall. So, I mean, they're going to give you a fight. Divisional matchup. Going to be closer than people think.
It's at home.
I think Philly still wins, but it's going to be closer than people.
I definitely think I lie. I definitely think you take Giants into +7. I think this is far less than a one-score game.
Yeah.
It's going to be in that 3 to 4 point range.
Yeah, I think so. For the Eagles, it's start everything. Devonta Smith is the one that you normally question, but you look over the last 4 weeks, 8, 9, 9, and 8 for the target volume. Just 1 week under 50 yards, and he had a touchdown that week. So Devonta Smith is a full go here. For the Giants, you can't trust anything other than Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones, we talk about quarterback streamers. Again, turnover prone, but rushing upside, back against the wall. They're going to rely on him. They're going to rely on Barkley. They have to. It is what I would consider a must-win game for the Giants. So, again, don't have anything in the receiving game that you can trust. They have a hole there. So not as gung-ho on that, but pretty well a chalk game.
You don't trust Darius Slayton at all?
No.
For the Giants, he's been getting 10, 6, 8 targets over the last 3 games.
And
he's actually their wide receiver 1, but that's pretty much it.
And who shadows?
Slay?
Yeah.
Touche. All right. We're good. We can move on to the next game. Chris. Oh, never mind. Dan didn't do it.
DFS.
Dan's gone. Yeah, dude. I'm like looking at last week, like Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, Devonta Smith stack was like the winner because AJ Brown, Devonta Smith had like 55 points between the two of them alone. So to find a game stack like that to work again, well, that'd be a little rough.
Yeah.
Get AJ Brown 8,000, Smith at 6,300. And Jalen Hurts at 8,100. So that's what, 816.
You also need to find a Giants running back. You also need to find a Giants to run it back with too.
That's 22,400. So you're already at almost have 50, like almost half your salary wrapped up just in 3 players. So you really try to tweak it. And it's hard to go, like, if you try to go with anyone from Giants, it's Saquon Barkley.
I mean, you try to find like, you're going to find a cheaper Giants to run it back with.
Like a Kenny Galladay at 3,200 and hope for the best.
Or you just do a 2-stack. You do a Hurts and Smith or Hurts and Brown, and then you just don't run it back with any Giants. You find another skinny stack to make.
Yeah, if you're playing any Giants this week, it's Saquon Barkley, like Hopp already said. And I wouldn't look at anyone else. You're just messing with fire at that point.
I mean, you mentioned Detroit receivers being cheap too. I mean, like you have to run it back with their quarterback receiver. You can just do 2 receivers and somebody else. So you can find skinny stacks in your DFS builds.
Oh, big
if
time.
you really want to build a QB wide receiver base with this Eagles game. Because I agree, Ryan, there really isn't a Giants player you want to throw out, run back. Slayton, what's Slayton's price, Ryan? He's been utilized deep, but he's going to draw Slay.
That's exactly what we just talked about. Was that
Yeah.
he's getting targeted, but Slay will shadow him.
He's at 5,100. So I
would,
mean,
would Slay
okay.
shadow? Galladay is supposed to play, right? Would Slay shadow? I know Slay shadows, but would he shadow him? No.
I think you would shadow Slayton. Galladay is 2 years into not showing you that he's not a threat. So,
well, I mean, Slayton isn't either, but I think Slayton's more of a threat.
Slayton is.
It's like soft pillow. Slayton's pillow is a little bit firmer.
Let me put it this way: Slayton's got 24 targets and is the only guy getting any form of realistic volume. So
that's
over the last 3 weeks. So
I can't believe
you throw directly at Galladay, he can't catch.
I can't believe they're winning games. I saw it. People want to call the Vikings frauds, and they just ignore the
Giants.
Both of the New Jersey teams here. All right, is that everything, guys?
Yeah, that's good.
For that game.
All right, we got a couple new games. We got 3 new games left. Browns at the Bengals, battle of Ohio 2.0. Bengals are 5.5-point favorites at home. Look, second game back for Watson. Pressure gone. Everyone cheered. I will always cheer for him to suck. But take the Bengals. I can't believe they're only 5.5-point favorites. Burrow traditionally struggles, right? He struggles against Cleveland. He's so good against the Chiefs and Mahomes. But yeah, he struggles to do anything against Cleveland. So I'm debunking that narrative. They're going to get this win this week. Take the Bengals -5.5.
Yeah, Bengals not giving up a ton of points for wide receiver here. By any stretch, just John Watson's looked bad. Yes, Amari Cooper had 9 targets. Yes, I don't know how you fade him, but you're gonna do that. And Donovan Peoples-Jones kept his floor. He did have the return touchdowns last week. It should be a high scoring game. Those are guys that kind of sit on the fringe for me of, the game script should dictate more than 22 pass attempts for Deshaun Watson. Cleveland's defense had 3 touchdowns. They didn't have to rely on him at all last week. I would suspect that this is going to be a little bit more high scoring, which, outside of Chubb is going to mean that Cleveland will need to use their wide receivers. But I don't trust the productivity, and I don't trust where Watson is to be able to support them. So it's kind of an ugly flex. If you have to, there's some upside there, and I want to acknowledge that, but it's not something that I'm like targeting or finding ways to get them into my lineup. Flip side of this with the Bengals, they're going to draw out chalk. Cleveland is middle of the road against the pass and the run. So, you don't get cute there with anything. You just run them out and go. Cincy's defense, by the way, if they're available and you're looking streamer. Watson, rusty, not a lot of productivity. Going to take some sacks. Going to take some picks, probably. I hope. Fuck Watson.
Do you think he throws deep a lot to Cooper? Do you think they finally get that connection, like that rust finally breaks off? And like we see the same game that we saw from Cooper, the same exact time when Brissett was thrown to him against Cincinnati?
No.
Those deep throws? No?
Maybe, but...
Maybe. Well, that's exactly it, right? It's like I said, there's upside to both of them. Do you want to bet on it? Not me. I don't. Somebody somewhere will have to take that. Somebody somewhere is going to be projected to lose. Somebody somewhere is going to need a win. They're going to play Amari Cooper.
Yeah, because I'm stuck in that same predicament. It's like Amari Cooper or Tyler Lockett. Do I follow the touchdown streak or
Lockett?
You go with Lockett. Yeah,
Lockett. I mean, significantly better offense than Lockett. It's become very consistent.
Okay, Lockett it is. I won't say anything
Like
else.
I'm
Sorry.
not saying
dads.
I'm not saying that Cooper can't, and Watson will probably get back to some sort of his playing level during his heydays in Houston. But again, we're this close to playoffs. It's the same arguments people had about they should play Watson last week. There is no upside to this.
No,
I played
all
Watson
risk
for all 5 points.
Yeah, like Do I expect him to be better than last week? Absolutely. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just completely lie to you guys.
Oh yeah,
but
game script wise and everything else, he should absolutely be
Yeah.
better than last week. Is it going to be great? Nah, probably not.
yeah, like, do I expect him to continue to probably improve week over week? Sure. Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? I'm sure he's a great, a DFS dart throw. Watson considered one of the best deep ball passers when he was on his game. So I'm sure he's a cheaper option too than Cooper in DFS.
Yeah, especially in DFS. Like I love like Kareem Hunt still at 4,600, but just because we always see him like go off. He always has those games where he goes off, but he's only had one this year where he's actually like finished as an RB1, and that was week 1, and he hasn't been over that 20-point threshold since. So it's like I always get nervous because it's like I always put him in a lineup no matter what lineup I'm setting, just because his price just keeps dropping.
I wouldn't
And you know what?
I wouldn't even play like this price upside, but he's not even 3xing his salary.
No,
He's 3x that salary twice, and he hasn't done it since week 5.
right, but the price keeps going down.
He still had 3x to 4,600 that he's priced at though. Otherwise, like, why would you pay down for a timeshare running back to build a? I mean, unless you're like, why not go for?
Because you're
Oh
trying
my
to throw
God.
the contrarian pick in.
Well,
to kinda
sure, when
say,
you're
like,
building
Matt
up
Barnes-
150 lineup, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
even then though, this game will have some target to it, but there's better stacks to it, right? You're gonna have both the Bengals receivers. You're probably gonna play one of those comebacks with a wide receiver for Cleveland. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't see a world where I'm wanting to play Hunt.
I don't see a world where I'm wanting to play Hunt either, given the utilization. I mean, when is the last? So week 8 might be the last time you played Kareem Hunt and said I feel okay about that, right?
yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Which was against Cincy.
but you still didn't
But-
feel. It's not like you blew him out of the water, right? You didn't feel great about it. It was 70
Well,
total. It was a 10-point game essentially. It was 70 total yards and 4 receptions.
Yeah, he got 11.2 points. So yeah, he didn't even he barely 2x. But
Yeah, I all I'm saying it's just there's got to be some upside to him, and
for the low ownership play, he's an easy, fun play to have to add in the lineup. But yeah, no, like I totally agree with you. Like I'd do a Chase Burrow stack if I could.
Yeah,
Because I just feel like that one's gonna work out well.
like the only way that Hunt's ever going to get played is if you're building a game stack in this game. Like you'll never play Hunt in cash. You're not going to play a naked Hunt. Like it just, yeah. Anyways, sorry.
We're all good.
Jaguars at the Titans. Titans 3.5-point favorites at home. 41.5 is the game total. Lawrence, there's a strong chance now. I don't know how strong, but there's reports that there's a good chance he doesn't play. I can't remember what the injury was, but I saw it pop up this week.
It was a leg injury. It happened during the game last week.
He's dealing with something, and in Jacksonville being out of the playoff contention, there's absolutely no reason for them to rush.
Toe
Well, not saying
injury.
toe.
It's a toe for the official injury report.
So keep your eyes out on that.
And he's
Titans have an improved defense, but they're still giving up some points to the QB position.
and Lawrence has not practiced. Who's his backup?
CJ Beathard.
That's right. We had this
Oof.
discussion last week.
So
Oof.
bet mine, just don't bet this game. Titans very up and down, continually being one dimensional. Tannehill keeps getting knocked in and out of games, I feel like. And yeah. They should easily win this game. So if you really want, I mean, I guess if you think that they can cover 3.5, which in theory they should, but I'm not betting this game.
Yeah, Titans are giving up points to wide receivers. Last 5 weeks, they are the worst in the NFL as far as allowing points to the wide receiver position. A lot of that's happened through touchdowns with A.J. Brown, Christian Watson, T. Higgins, Mecole Hardman, and then something called Jalen Virgil. all going over 13 points against them. So that's going to make Christian Kirk an okay play. I think even with Bethard, I don't know how you trust anything else in that. Yeah, in that receiving game, though.
Jaguars offense?
Yeah, well, Jaguars offense, Etienne's not on the injury report, so I'm fine with that. I think that they'll lean on him even heavier. If they have to go with Bethard as the starting QB, I do think you're going to see more checkdowns go to Etienne. You're going to see him lean on quite a bit more, typically. And then Robinson's gone. Never mind. Hasty's the backup. Oh, Titan.
Hates didn't have that much play last week.
No, and he's not going to with Etienne healthy. Titan side of it is just Henry. They haven't had a receiver that's consistently done shit.
No, they don't, and especially with Treylon Burks being more than likely being out with a concussion.
Yeah, he's still not practicing and not cleared. So if Burks plays, then yeah, you're gonna play Burks because it's a concussion, right? It's either you're cleared, you're full go, or you're not. You typically don't see like getting eased back in after that, but right now he's not practicing, so I'm assuming he's not gonna play. It was a pretty bad hit.
Yeah, and with him, like if he plays, I'd go for Ryan Tannehill at 5,200. But if he doesn't play, I'm not playing Ryan Tannehill at all, just because of that whole reason. I feel like once Burks was out there, Tannehill really kind of was a lot better out there. And then I feel nervous with Derrick Henry because just the way he's been performing the last few games. He's had 2 games back to back now of under 40 rushing yards. So he's kind of starting to stumble. Like, are we going to start getting the playoff push, Derrick Henry, or is this the downhill slope that we're starting to see? So at 7,900, I'm passing on Derrick Henry. But like you said, Hopper, like
who else are you gonna? And it's not like Jacksonville's not been terrible against the run, but it's not like they've been fantastic either. So, and like we already mentioned earlier in the show, it's a really weird week for running backs. There's so many guys that you do have to play that are in timeshares. So to go out and get somebody that really hasn't been in that much of a timeshare. I think the problem with Henry is that against Philly, he somehow ended up game scripted out. I don't think we've ever seen that for him, but he ended up game scripted out. It was really not that way against Cincinnati, but he wasn't effective, at least in the run game. He was in the receiving game. So,
yeah. So could it be like a Hillard game for the Titans, where he's like more available in the passing game?
No, because I don't think that the game script's going to dictate more of a Hilliard game here. I don't think it's going to be like last week where they're down and they're down big.
Yeah. And like you said, like the Jacksonville wide receivers, even with Bethard starting, it could be questionable, but I still like Christian Kirk at 6,600.
Zay Jones banged up, by the way. He's also on the injury report.
Yeah, he has a chest. He was limited today in practice.
He does have a chest, yes.
Chest injury.
I'm glad he's got a chest.
That's on the front, not the back. And then I still like Evan Ingram too. He's at 3,300 this week. He had 7 targets last week, so it's kind of hard to look past 7 targets. But then at the same time, it's like you look at those big target games where like he had 6 targets against Denver for 55 yards and a touchdown, and then followed that up with 1 reception for 8 yards. So
there's no consistency there. And he had 7 targets last week. He had a touchdown, but he only went for 30 yards. So
yeah. Well, they were using short and close too. Like he wasn't doing anything deep. He had like 1 deep target and he dropped it. So that was one of the 7 targets that he didn't catch. And then if it's Bethard, how do you guys feel about starting the Titans defense at 3,400 this week on DFS?
You can almost play both defenses.
Yeah.
With this low of a game total.
You can.
2,700 for the Jaguars. It's not a bad deal. Yeah.
If you're looking for a cheap defense, right? You mentioned the Jets, Ryan, around that 25 range. That sub 3K defense, so you can build some of those higher stacks.
That's usually what I like to do. I like to scroll down to the bottom and see what the bottom of the barrel looks like. So
right. Find somebody you like at the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't think Jacksonville's ownership is going to be very high.
They won't
either.
I wouldn't think so.
Titans, I definitely think they will be, especially if
it's
Lawrence doesn't
Bethard.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that might not be a bad pivot if you're looking to find some uniqueness to your build.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's still 13-3.
Yeah, it's fucking ugly.
I'm glad I took the
And-
under and all that.
Yeah, this easy. All right. Last noon game. Battle of Texas. Texans versus the Cowboys. Cowboys 17.5 point. 17.5 point favorites at home. 44.5 is the game total. I don't know if the Texans are the Cowboys can definitely get this on their own. I don't know if they will though. I'll just let this game go. Obviously, spread's way too high to be comfortable with. Dallas playing some of the best football that they played in a very long time. So just sit back and watch the destruction happen, and hopefully you get some fantasy productions from your Dallas players in the first half before they get taken out in the third quarter. So they're up, 35 points.
Yeah. Both running backs and CD Lamb for Dallas. Michael Gallup, the last 2 weeks, has had decent target volume. Did have the multi-touchdown game, not a lot of yardage productivity, not a game script they're going to need to use him, of course. Neither was the game against the Colts. He's kind of a break glass in case of emergency player this week, the way that things have been trending for him. It's not, you don't feel safe with it, but if you're looking for somebody in upside in a game that should have some upside, that's the route you're going to go. Dalton Schultz has been a bit pedestrian, but the touchdown upside is there, so you're good with that. Texans side of this, yeah. Gross. That's my Texans sound.
You can't even say Damian Pierce, right? It's that's ugly.
It's got to be efficient.
95 total yards last week, but yeah, he's got to be efficient against a good Dallas defense. So
But they broke the news today though that Davis Mills is starting.
Ooh.
He's back. Don't know what that means.
Which is somehow an improvement on Kyle Allen.
The spread went from 16.5 or no 18.5 to 18.5. No change.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, I like the stack of doing like a Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, 6,700, 6,100 as like a mid-range running backs to stack it with this one.
Oh man.
Right?
No. I mean,
you don't like that?
Because you're playing two players cannibalizing themselves. Like if you like, why not just then spend and try to play another running back who's got higher touch potential? Like you can play one of them. I'd probably play Pollard, right? Because he's got the big play potential. He's probably cheaper than Zeke. Yeah.
No,
you
he's
have
actually
to
more expensive than Zeke.
Oh, okay. Then maybe you play Zeke. It's just that's a lot of salary tied into one backfield. You're effectively playing 3K more than what McCaffrey's salary was during his prime. And
Pretty nuts, right?
You have to get that much more production out of a backfield that may only need half of it. Like fuck, you could see Malik Davis come in the third or fourth quarter, then then what? So one of them I'm good with.
They just keep playing Thunder and Lightning like they always do every week.
I mean, it's
Pollard gets all the yards and Elliott just gets the touchdowns in the red zone.
It's worked out well for them. Fuck,
yeah.
Zeke's been more efficient than he's been in a long time.
Yeah, I traded him at the wrong freaking time.
Yeah, I'm not saying Zeke's been more efficient throughout a lot of the games, through most of these games until Pollard gets the big play.
Yeah, because Zeke's been, they say averaging 13 points per game, but over his last 5, he's been over 15.6. So he's actually been averaging more closer to 16.5 over his last 5 games. So that one's beneficial. And I like the one that Hopper said about Michael Gallup. He didn't show much for yards, but he did get those 2 goal line touchdowns to kind of help boost him a little bit last week.
In a blowout.
And he actually went from 4,800 last week on Sunday Night Football to 4,600 this week. So that's not a bad deal at all. I still like CeeDee Lamb, but I don't know how much they're really gonna need CeeDee Lamb. Like you say, Danny, like it could be one half, it could be a first quarter for all we know.
I mean, Lamb's still a target getter, and they can't blow teams out. Like teams have to get production before they blow a team out, obviously. So
Oh yeah, I thought
someone's
you'd be
got
like
to get
72
the
nothing.
someone's got to get the production there for to hit that point. That's why that's
the Gabe Davis law.
yeah. This would be the game where Gabe Davis is the sole reason why that the Bills are blowing a team out. No, but this is it's I would be careful trying to do too heavy of a Dallas sack because of their opponent's not going to push pace.
Yeah, and if you want to go expensive on a DFS on that, like Cowboys defense is 3,800, and they're the number 3 defense.
Gross.
Yeah, that's they're going to be played heavily too. Well, now it's heavily because they're an expensive defense, so
that's why
they'll see some run. Yeah,
they're priced that way because they're gonna score.
Well, defenses are always weird. Like you don't see super high ownership in either direction. It's how teams are gonna build their massive injuries based around how they want to do their game stacks. All right, let's do a beer review and then wrap this shit up.
Beer review.
Why don't you start, Dan? You got the non-alcoholic.
So the cool thing about drinking these is that it goes down just quickly, right? 7 or 8 calories, obviously just 0.5% of booze in there. So you drink these, and it's just like at some point you'll get bloated. But
how many calories?
78.
Oh, nice. So it's less than a seltzer even.
Less than most.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking just slightly above like your Mick Ultra range,
right? Ultra and Select 55 and stuff.
Yeah. So this is like drinking a sessionable pale ale, right? You get the malt characteristics, you get the floral, the piney, citrusness from the hops that are used in there, and it's like drinking a regular pale, just a regular IPA. That's why these beers are so popular. So, you're getting exactly as advertised. They have a darker beer that's out that I'm gonna probably pick up and bring on the show at some point. I've always been intrigued by some of the more malt heavier beers and how they get that done. So I'm excited to try a NA, I guess, darker, an NA darker beer.
Interesting.
Curious on how you get NA done. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, I'm gonna start looking at NA too just to try it.
You're basically boiling out all the alcohol and then a lot of filtrations to take as much stuff out of the way and basically reducing the risk of any re-fermentation in the can, which is why you don't see a 0.0 ever advertised in craft because there's always room.
So when you say boiling off all the alcohol technically doesn't exist until after fermentation. Are you reboiling it after fermentation? Or are they killing off the enzymes so that things don't convert?
That's probably it. Not 100% certain, but that's...
I want to look into that process because it's always intrigued me knowing the natural process of how you get beer through sugar extraction, yeast converts sugars into alcohol, and that's the whole point. If you didn't pitch yeast, you're just gonna have something that's super sweet and over attenuated with normal grain. So I'm super curious how they get that. I'm gonna look into that. I'll report back next week.
Yeah,
and that brew process because it's always intrigued me. I'm sure it's hard to do. So,
yeah.
All right, I had Pursuit United, the bourbon. They do have a rye variant. Also very good. As a reminder, Pursuit United is the spirits company that's owned by Ryan Cecil and Kenny Coleman of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. Great guys. If you haven't checked that out, you're interested in bourbon at all, go listen. They're the #1 bourbon podcast, so you probably have already. So this guy, again, it's a custom blend of bourbon from Bardstown Bourbon Company, Finger Lakes Distilling out of New York, and then a Tennessee distillery that is not Dickel. And I had the pleasure of tasting this the individual components of this before they were blended together for Soup Palooza earlier this year. This bourbon it's an exceptional blend, especially for the price point. It kind of gives you everything that you want as you go through the drink. It's spicy. It's a little bit oaky. There's a nice like chocolate yellow cake note to it in the middle that comes from the Finger Lakes product that's in this. Definitely more on the sweeter side, but it wraps up with a bit of spice, a touch of a Kentucky hug. The tannins show up just enough in it with some of that sweet, like chewy oak, to balance out the sweetness. Very, very well blended. Very, very good pour. Definitely exceptional at the price point. If you have a chance to pick it up, I 100% cannot recommend strongly enough doing that. They're only available in certain states, but it's definitely worth the cost of admission.
Sounds good.
I would put this up against like 108 proof, I think. Yeah, it's 108 proof. So, putting this up against a little bit lower proof than what like the stuff. I would put it up against some of their better offerings, some of the like I would take this over Wild Turkey 101. It is a little bit more. Take this over that. Trying to think of other things. Kind of a unicorn in the sense that there's not a lot at this proof with this flavor profile at that price point. You either got to go higher or limited release to get that, or lower and the quality's not.
So I had Secret Beer Hug, not Bear Hug, Beer Hug. Number 1 hazy IPA from Goose Island. It comes in at 6.5%. And as I'm always gonna say with hazy IPA, all I taste is more grape. Like this one tastes a little bit more grapefruity. Did you guys notice that kind of same thing when you guys had it?
Yeah.
I don't know, more grapefruit than anything, than like tropical. I didn't really taste like the more of like the pineapple or
it's winter. It's more of a traditional IPA where you're gonna get more, American sea hops, more kind of like grapefruit out of it. Those pineapple or super.
Yeah, so that's why I noticed more of anything. It was more of a grapefruit beer than any other hazy I've had. Still pretty good though. I mean, definitely recommend it. But I definitely got a couple more other ones to try that I'll definitely have on next week also. So it's part of my 4-pack. What is it? 4-pack, 12-pack, or 3-pack? They give you 3 different variants and 4 different variants, 3 different cans. That's what I got out of it.
Can you do that? Can you run through that? 3-pack,
So I got
4-pack, 12-pack, 4 variants times 3. Carry the 1.
You get 12, right?
21 beers.
All right, yeah.
Well,
somehow we get the 21 beers.
That's kind of like 12, but the other way around.
Yeah, the wrong 12. This is 12.
That makes
It's
total
backwards
sense.
12.
Yes.
Kind of like you trying to explain how many beers are in that case you got.
Jesus Christ.
It was fun. It's a fun pack.
Yeah, fun.
Kind of like
All right.
Panthers Seahawks.
Chiefs Broncos.
Damn it.
You're close. Next game. Chiefs at the Broncos. Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites on the road at 43.5 is the game total. You have one of the league's best offenses, highest scoring offenses against one of the best teams against or against one of the best teams giving up points, but can't score any points themselves. Take the Chiefs and the spread. I go slightly over.
Yep, Juju's kind of in a lull ever since that earlier hot streak. So came back from injury and hasn't seen the same target volume. Really, it's been a lot of Travis Kelce for the Chiefs, and I think that's going to continue. MVS outside, been getting some volume, going to have a tough matchup. Juju's another player like Gallup, I think, in this one that might be break glass in case of emergency, just because he should, in theory, have a slightly easier matchup. Juju's playing primarily out of slot, right? I'm not misremembering
Yeah.
that.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
So he should draw a slightly easier matchup than the other guys outside, but this is still mostly going to be Travis Kelce's game. As far as the running game goes, the Chiefs' running game has been a trash heap to try to predict all season, right? You had some games where it looked like Pacheco was going to break out, and he still does look good, but you're more in kind of a split role again where he's getting receiving work and McKinnon's getting receiving work, and it's like 60-40 going that way. So Pacheco, a tough matchup if you're looking for a running back. The Broncos side of this, they're looking to be without Cortland Sutton, so you're going to have Jerry Jeudy. They are using Greg Dulcich more in a wide receiver role, so I do actually like Dulcich a lot this week as a tight end, especially with them being without Cortland Sutton. I think, is Jerry Jeudy on their injury report still?
I
Yes,
think he
he's still
still is,
questionable.
but he's still slated to play.
Questionable with ankle.
Not that I didn't believe you. Andrew Beck, one of their other tight ends, dealing with a hamstring injury, which also votes well for Dulcich. So, Dulcich is, I think, the guy I really want to target here, along with Jerry Jeudy. They're going to have to throw. Tavius Murray's getting most of the running back work. He's going to be a flex RB2 type play with really no upside at all. That's Denver.
Yeah, he has nothing. Like Latavius Murray is just like, you hope for a touchdown, and then if you don't get a touchdown, then it's a bad day.
You're just getting like 80 some odd yards and around 10
Yeah.
points probably, and that's
very gross.
It's God, very gross. The way they're using Dulcich though, I like, especially in a game that could end up being lobster.
And I think actually Dulcich actually led the team in targets last week too, with
He
8.
did, and 80 plus yards for a tight end, put you in immediate upper tier tight end 1. So,
as a rookie too, so that's even fun.
oh yeah,
And he's
Someone's got to
perfect
make
too.
plays out there.
$3,400 on DraftKings for him, so that could be easy smash for him. But I'm not playing Russell Wilson because I don't know why anyone plays him, because that's just fire you're playing with. Patrick Mahomes is, I think, the most expensive. Nope, he's the third most expensive quarterback this week on the slate. So
This is not a good game for him. I would not.
You don't think so? 'Cause it feels like
Against-
anytime he goes up against a strong pass defense, that's when he does good.
I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying, just based on what Denver's been this year and how they're not going to need a lot of scoring. I mean, all you need to do is score 20 points and you'll beat Denver.
Yeah,
They're
because they
not
haven't
going
scored
to
over
need
17.
They're not going to need much of him. Now, I'm not saying he won't do it. I'm not saying you're going to obviously bench him or nothing like that. But me personally, I wouldn't be heavily invested into this Chiefs offense this week for DFS.
I still like Isaiah Pacheco though, the way amount of attempts he's getting. Yeah, I mean he's okay in the passing game, but if you want to swap plays from 5,700, which is what Pacheco's at, down to Jerick McKinnon at 4,600, I wouldn't mind playing him either.
isn't Singletary
Just because
cheaper?
I feel compared to Pacheco,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think they're the same person.
Singletary, yeah, they're both 5,700.
Okay, well, apparently they think they're the same person too.
Yeah,
You guys are cute.
both running backs. Meh.
No. Maybe. No, I'm good. That's it for this game.
All right. All right. Panthers at the Seahawks. Seahawks 4-point favorites at home, 44.5. It's the game total. That's the continued surprise rise of Seattle. Carolina has covered 5 out of their past 6 games. Pretty impressive, especially given their quarterback carousel in that meantime. But they really haven't played against a good team outside of Cincy in early November to speak of. So this should be a decent test when you have one of the more efficient offenses, with Geno being one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. I like Seattle -4.
They're getting beat outside with with speed. By they, I mean Carolina. They're middle of the road against the wide receiver, but they're getting beat outside with speed for the most part over the last 5 weeks, and really throughout the season. Well, I think Seattle has somebody like that could beat you outside with speed and vertical ability.
I think so.
Big fucking dude too.
Yeah.
So I've been on DK Metcalf. Go ahead and chase the Tyler Lockett, volume, but also touchdown streak. You are going to be without Kenneth Walker this week, most likely for Seattle. Travis Homer figures to draw the start. That's going to be a little bit uglier than you would expect. DJ Dallas also not back, so they're not in a great way. They're in Seattle, and then Carolina side of this. Is it Darnold again? We're still rolling with Darnold. They cut Baker. I'm assuming they're still rolling with Darnold, not PJ.
I believe, yes.
Yes. Yep, you're right.
So,
You're correct.
What that does bode well for is DJ Moore. DJ Moore with Sam Darnold is wide receiver 2 floor. The one game that they had together, 103 yards and a touchdown. So it's not a terrible matchup for him, and I do feel relatively confident in DJ Moore with the rapport he has with Sam Darnold and the way that he's going to be utilized. And then, Foreman this week, where there's not a lot of options at running back, is, I think, as a plug-and-play start.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny that DraftKings still has Baker Mayfield on the quarterback slate for Carolina on here, as listed as out.
Yeah.
It's
They
because
don't.
of the midweek stuff. They won't update it till next week.
Yeah. They're generally a week ahead, and they're putting
Oh,
shit
yeah.
together.
That's right, because they do their Sunday night. That's right. But Geno Smith this week, $6,200. Can't go wrong with him, especially with the way, like you said, Hopper, everything about the wide receivers being able to burn Carolina deep. Got that big guy out there named DK Metcalf at 7,100.
Who's that guy? I wonder how good he is.
Or Tyler Lockett at 6,500.
Game stack them both, baby.
You could.
Hit him
Very
with
well
that
could.
run back with DJ.
DJ Moore at 5,500.
It's a big stack though.
Yeah.
I pick one of you pick one of Lockett Metcalf and you run it back with Moore.
And I still like Deontay Foreman, just because it feels like anytime you start a running back in Seattle, they do good. And he comes in at 5,400.
Hopper, we got chat.
What?
Chat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it's new private dating with lips.
Oh, sweet. Private dating?
Ooh, fun.
Hey.
Triple X20.
I actually don't see
All right.
it. There we go.
All right. Anything else, Ryan, DFS?
No, it's just basically I'm on Seattle side and kind of off Carolina, unless it's named DJ Moore and Deontay Foreman.
All right.
What a hard Sunday slate, right?
Right. Bucks at the Niners. Niners 3.5-point favorites. 37.5 is the over under. The start of Brock Purdy versus Tom Brady. All the decisions you have to make with one of the best playmaking groups in football, with what San Francisco has, decision making between Rashad White or Leonard Fournette and whether you should play him this week. Hopper, you're gonna have fun with that part. I'm taking Tampa Bay on the road. Brady. This is prime time Brady time.
All right. Other side of this, let's go with San Francisco first. Christian McCaffrey. No Elijah Mitchell with the third string quarterback is you're locked and loaded with him. That's where the offense is gonna, try to run through. You had 10 targets last week for Deebo Samuel as he ramps back up. His target volume's actually been very, very good the last 3 weeks, despite the productivity not necessarily being there. I can get behind there being target volume with the ability to break out that he has, and I do think they're going to have to involve him in the rushing game and get a bit creative with him again. Tough matchup against Tampa, but I do think that you're going to have to utilize Deebo. So yeah, but you might as well play him because Shanny's going to have to get creative here. I'm a little tepid on Ayuk. I know there for a while in the middle of the season he had a stretch of really good games put together. His high water mark the last 2 weeks has been 65 yards. Again, target volume's been there, but he's being used as more of a true just outside receiver. and that does not play well against the Bucs. I like Debo more because of the gadgets you get with him. You're not typically going to get that out of Ayuk, because I am fading Ayuk a bit this week. And kind of the same thing for, actually, no. How do you guys feel about Kittle? Let me just ask. How are we feeling about Kittle this week? Do you think he's going to have to block? Do you think they're going to use him as a safety net?
Yes.
Yeah, 2 targets and 2 catches on 2 targets for like 20 yards.
Yeah, against Miami.
But are you going
to
to say, and this is obviously Purdy was in for over half this game. I mean, do we really feel, I mean, you're not going to,
they won 30.
Stidham's going to be tough. Who you realistically benched him for? So you almost have to just eat and just hope that, that he gets rollouts and they try to put him in space more. But I'll
tell you who I'm benching him for, Greg Dulcich.
Sure. That would be probably one of the very, few occasions in which you can make that decision. And even then it's still tough, just given what we know what we can get from Kittle, even with back quarterback play.
Well, that's also true.
Yeah.
For the Bucs, you mentioned Rachaad White versus Leonard Fournette in this one against San Francisco. Rachaad White was primarily involved in the receiving game. He caught the receiving touchdown last week, whereas Leonard Fournette was a bit more the runner. And, he also looked better than he had been. He also was heavily involved in the receiving game on 7 targets. So, I think in this game, looking at script and everything, seeing how both guys were used, it's another one of those situations where you're going to be 50-50 and they're both flex plays. Until somebody clearly grabs it, not going to phase Lenny out all the way yet, even though Rachaad White's been phased in more. What you've gotten here is you've gotten more of a timeshare where it's neither guy, but, I do like both guys because of how the Bucs have shown they're going to use them, especially in PPR. Throw under your running backs 13 times when you're splitting targets that way actually bodes well for both dudes, in my opinion. But the problem is both of them are going to have significantly capped upside.
Fournette is on the injury report, and this is also still is a difficult matchup. Fournette was heavily used during clutch time for Tampa Bay's comeback. White did get it on the last play of the game. Obviously, a little more of a receiving threat than what Fournette is at their points in their careers. So bear in mind that there's a lot of Fournette towards the later part of that game, and I think Tampa Bay can definitely keep this close. So White could dominate the touches early, or see more of the, I won't say dominate, but see more of the early snaps and touches. You can see that lean into Fournette.
Fournette is not on the injury report right.
Oh, I saw him show up as questionable when I saw one of the things pop up today.
I'm just looking at NFL.com, and they have the latest updates from today's practice list, and there's no Fournette. John Murphy Bunting is limited. Vade is limited. Winfield is not practicing, which actually is a good news for Kittle. But, yeah.
They show Fournette limited at practice Thursday by a foot injury, so he's just limited.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
We'll know more about it this.
Yeah, that's not on the NFL site either under the Thursday practices. So that's interesting because the NFL site has the official injury reports and he's not on there. So I don't know.
Gross. Tom Brady's getting so cheap now in DFS. It's crazy. He's down to 5,600 already. And I found some good news. So Tom Brady was in the 2000 Orange Bowl. He threw for 369 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. Brock Purdy was just 5 days old.
That
was by Crystal Scour on Twitter. She wrote that. She's like that huge San Francisco fan.
Wait,
now we're gonna on my timeline.
When Tom Brady did what?
He was in the 2000 Orange Bowl, and Brock Purdy was 5 years old.
That makes sense.
And now we're gonna watch Brock Purdy, Tyler Heineke, his way to a near victory.
You hope so, right?
Against Tampa Bay. God.
I mean, Brock Purdy.
There's so many fantasy relevant players in this game, and it could not be just
The worst.
one of the grosser matchups because there's no Garoppolo.
And like,
Ugh.
it's like it's hard to play. It's hard not to play Christian McCaffrey at 8,500. He's like one of the most expensive, not the most expensive running back on the slate. But like last week he got 28.6, but the week before that it's 18.9, 17.6, 17.7, 40.26. So it's like you're playing with fire on that one.
So he's really good or he's extremely good.
Exactly.
Like that's
But
why
like,
he's 8,500 though.
yeah. And then Leonard Fournette, like I said, Leonard Fournette, Rashad White being like a 50-50 split. DraftKings sees it the same way. It's like Fournette's 5,600, drop down $100. There's Rashad White.
I mean, both backs, as Hopper mentioned, both backs are going to get involved, and that's one way to help neutralize a pass rush when your offensive line isn't playing particularly well. It's to utilize the short throws and quick releases that Brady has. So, absolutely, as Hopper mentioned, both backs are viable.
The Fournette doesn't show up on the full injury report if you go to that section of the site. Then if you go to the text article of the injury report, it says he's questionable with a foot injury.
Fucking social, fucking technology.
On the same website, by the way.
Ridiculous. We got 2 games left. Dolphins at the Chargers.
Game of the week.
Tua versus Herbert. Tua versus social media, a quarterback that's been pinned for Herbert, apparently. Dolphins are 3-point favorites on the road. 52.5. Tied for the highest game total. I think this is actually a point higher than Vikings Lions. This should be a masterclass of points. Take the over and hopefully we get a fireworks show.
Ooh.
And
we'll see, unless Brandon Staley really fucks it up for us, which also wouldn't surprise me.
Not surprise me either. Not only do you take the over, you just start freaking everything, including Josh Palmer. Done.
Yep.
Easiest
Done.
game preview ever. By the way, Jeff Wilson not cutting into Mustard's.
Dude, he got rough last week. A lot of pissed off Jeff Wilson stands out there.
Yes, sir.
Yikes.
That's really the only other note for this game. Other than that, you're playing freaking everything.
Touchdown, Cam Akers.
Yay! It worked. I started
1 yard,
tonight too.
1 yard touchdown.
1 yard.
God, is that gross?
Cam Akers stat line.
12 for 42 and a tutty.
Yay.
12 for 42 and a tutty.
Look at Baker Mayfield, 17 out of 28 for $150.
Pretty ugly.
God, that's so bad.
Vince Gronick.
It's cute.
Vince Gronick on his way to a 10-point game.
Yeah, Ben Skoranek, 549. Might as well be a tight end. Ryan, any showdown love for the Sunday night game?
I have like a Sunday Monday slate that I'm able to pull up. So I'm able to pull up cheap ones. If people are able to look at that. But yeah, I still go Herbert. I still go Tua. Eckler's actually on the record to be like he's actually like on pace to beat CMC's like most reception record.
Dude, it's insane how much. Yeah, he's been the most utilized back out of in the receiving game. It's not even close.
Crazy.
It's because they can't get a Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett health to all line up properly with Eckler.
104 targets already, 85 receiving, or 85 receptions. Sorry.
Jesus.
But yeah, Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, it's like a 50-50 backfield once again. More like, I know it's more and more we're talking tonight. The more backfields we're seeing as like a 50-50 split. So it's scary, but that's how football, like that's how these teams are going now, is they're having a nice 1-2 punch.
You're also late. You're also late into the season, and you're trying. It's not that you're resting players, but you're trying to find, ways to keep your players, from a week to week fresh.
And like the hot hand approach.
Yeah, and the fact is, you mentioned more teams don't value running backs the way they used to be, so you can just create your monster with these little draft picks, and you just rotate them in and out as you go.
And Mike Williams, he was back as a full participant this week.
Was he?
Could he come back? Yeah.
Yep, he is.
5,900. I mean, I hope he does more than we did the other day.
Just in time for the fireworks.
Just in time to pour some water on Josh Palmer.
Yeah. So I like him a lot at 5,900.
You still
kidding.
play him too.
Just kidding. You still play him too.
But even with him, like with him being in, as long as he's in, I'm not a fan of Gerald Everett at all this week. Like I'd be a fan of
Yeah.
Everett if he was out, but with him in, I'm not a fan of Everett at 4,300 at all.
Everett's really fallen off a bit too. I mean, he's been battling his own injuries, but yeah, it's not been the same as it was early season. All right, last game Monday night. We ready?
Let's do it.
Pats at the Cardinals. Patriots 1.5 point favorites on the road.
At least we can end on a
43.
good game, right?
Yeah, right. 43.5 is the game total.
Ugly.
Just it's one of those games. It's a lot of fantasy matchups are going to come down to this game, right? Ramondre Stevenson, Hopkins, Murray, Marquise Brown, maybe potentially Jacoby Myers. This is
James
stressful.
Conner.
Yeah, James Conner, and it's not a pretty matchup. And I from a betting standpoint, I have very little interest. Probably the Patriots. I'll take the 1.5 and get a little better odds, but that's about it.
Do yourself a favor and don't play Jacoby Myers when your fantasy championships on the line. No more than 6 targets each of the last 4 weeks. The floor's been there. The upside's completely evaporated. He had a nice stretch there in the middle, particularly, I think, with Bailey Zappi. Since Max come back, it's been, here's your floor, but not much else. And it's been disappointing. There's several good matchups. Didn't come to fruition for him. So stay away from that. It's really just Ramondre Stevenson on the Patriots side, I think. The other side of this for the Cardinals, it's Patriots have a good defense, but you're not gonna back off of Nuke. You may fade Hollywood Brown a little bit. Connor's been really it. So, this is not a pretty ugly.
No, it's not a fun game. And when one of your only like exciting players to start in DFS cheaply, and like is looking at Hunter Henry at 3,200, just
And that's not
because.
even exciting.
No, exactly, and that's just because like Arizona ranks fairly low. They have them as 32, but they're not 32 overall because they've done pretty good lately against tight ends. But
Still.
it's Hunter Henry, and still it's just like they have their chances to do it. But yeah, you're gonna start your normal James Conner 6,900, Ramondre Stevenson 6,600. I would still tap Jacoby Myers just on DFS wise, like you said, Hopper. You're not gonna do it in your fantasy football championship, but on DFS he's at 4,800, so he's definitely worth the play on that.
Oh, with your playoffs on the line.
Yeah. No, not playing with that one. But DFS wise, yes.
That's a show.
That's it.
That was fun.
Woo. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be here Sunday.
Sunday.
For start sits, normal time, so right around 10 a.m. And yeah, we'll catch you then. Take care.
So yeah.
Beerfield Podcast at Beerfield on Twitter. I'm at Beerfield Hopp at Ryan_FFP at Beerfield 30.
See you guys.
Bye.